Hey guys, this is the DreamItAlive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. We're an online global community that helps people discover their dreams, goals, and aspirations. This episode is brought to you by Microsoft BizSpark, which provides technology and community to promising startups and entrepreneurs at no charge, and TriNet, a professional employee organization that provides HR outsourcing services for small business owners. So today's guest is a self-proclaimed hopeless romantic and someone who truly believes that the world is a beautiful place. And she also believes that people are noble and that anything is possible. Sounds too good to be true? Well, it is. Pam Grout is our guest. She's the author, get this, 16 books. And latest book was a phenomenal book, which I actually personally read, called E Squared, 9 Do-It-Yourself Energy Experiments to Prove Your Thoughts Create Your Reality. Pam is well known in various places such as People, Men's Journal, CNN Travel, Huffington Post. And what's really fascinating about her is she is just really all about law of attraction, living your dreams, and doing what you love. Because when you read Pam's bio and you visit her site and read her book, it just seems like she's just talking. It's not like she's being a quote-unquote paid writer or she's on a project or doing an assignment. She's just talking, and it's just so much radiance coming out of her. So I thought, you know what, let's get her on the show and let's have her share her words of wisdom on how to become truly happy. So Pam, thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you, and what a great compliment. I love the idea that I am truly radiant. That is one of the best things I've heard ever, so thank you.
I truly mean it. So how did you become such a radiant person? What was your journey like?
Well, I think being appreciative and happy is the most important thing. In fact, you talk about the law of attraction. I think the one thing that makes the law of attraction work above all else is to make it fun and to really appreciate and to love it. I mean, I think love is such a powerful force, and so when we love what we're doing, then it can't help but work for us. And so I think my career path is I've always pursued what I love. I love writing. I was one of these kids in second grade that read all these books, and I think anybody that reads a lot starts thinking, well, I think I'll write too. So, I started writing little stories when I was in second grade, about Blackie the Bear and Patty the Penguin, and, that was just what I always loved to do. And then I've just continued to pursue that, and again, even when times might have not looked like it was going to work out, I continued to do what I loved. And now it's just panning out beautifully. In fact, here's kind of a good example about, that happiness and that joy, how it really works. This book that is now, it's been on the bestseller list now for 18 weeks. I just heard from my publicist that it's gone into the 18th week. It's been translated into 33 different languages, and it's really, truly been an international hit. But I wrote that book 9 years ago, and it came out as another book. It was called God Doesn't Have Bad Hair Days, and I was just so convinced that was going to be the bestseller. Well, it quickly, died a quick death, went out of print, and so I dusted it up a little bit, a couple years ago and sold it to Hay House, and, now it has become that international hit that I had intended, 9 years ago. But the big difference, and I think the reason that it has become successful now is because my joy channels are just wide open. I mean, I am just grateful every day. I get up every morning. I say something amazingly awesome is going to happen to me today. And I think as I became happy, as I became, more joyful, I've always been pretty happy, but I mean, now my joy channels are just, wide open. So I really think that's been the difference. And the other thing that's kind of funny, people go, oh, what's your marketing strategy? And you're talking about, I just talk. Well, that's really kind of true. My marketing strategy for this book was I went to the beach on New Year's Eve. My sister lives in Savannah, Georgia, so I was on Tybee Beach, and I wrote in big letters with a stick in the sand. It said, E Squared will be an international bestseller. I mean, this big, giant letters, then the ocean came and got it and took it out into the world, and that was my marketing strategy. So there you have it.
That's awesome. Well, so yeah. I'm just kind of jumping forward a little. So you're saying that visualizing and doing practices like dream boards is very helpful for you?
Yes, definitely. Well, I believe in, setting intentions, deciding what you want. I mean, I believe that we get out of our life whatever we're expecting. And I think what happens is sometimes people set these goals, but then their belief system says, oh, well, I'm not worthy of that, or, oh, I can't do that, or life is hard. And as long as that's your underlying belief system, you're going to get that reality. I mean, literally, I think what happens to it matches our vibration, whatever it is we're, believing and vibrating at that level. So I think once we really get it that that the universe is abundant and that is our right, that is how it's supposed to be, and that is our true belief system, and that's what's going to happen to us. So yeah, it's very important to set those intentions, but the biggest intention needs to be that life is easy, life works, I deserve to do what I love to do. So once that happens, it just all kind of like a skateboard going down a hill. It's real easy.
Okay. Well, that's pretty awesome. Tell me an experience where you first experienced law of attraction working in your life, and then you just knew, you know what, this is for real. I got to do this.
Well, I think I've always kind of known it. You make an intention for something to happen, and then if you really want it, it will happen. I think the thing that's happened for me, too, is being able to let go of it. It's like set it and forget it. Because I think what happens is we start worrying about it and we decide how it's going to happen and all this kind of stuff. Well, as long as we're involved in that process, we're trying to figure it out, well, sadly, we just have kind of a limited amount of information on how that could work. But if you let it go and let the universe take care of it, the universe is all-knowing, all-wise. I mean, the universe can figure it out. So the less we try to get involved in the details, like I always like to say, well, how is not up to me. It's, what is up to me, and the rest is up to the universe. That's, what's my job? My job is to say, okay, this is what I want. The universe's job is to do everything else, to figure out how it's going to work. I mean, here's a classic example. Everybody thinks, oh, I want to win the lottery. That's how I'm going to become rich or whatever. Well, that's fine, and that could happen, but that is one way of, having your abundance come to you when the universe has millions and millions of ways to bring abundance to you. So I think the less we handcuff the universe, the less we get involved in that how this is going to happen process, the better it is. I mean, I think it's really important to set the goal, to have the vision board, and then just to let the dots and, let the universe connect the dots. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, how do you pitch law of attraction to someone who doesn't believe in it?
Well, it's funny. I don't know that I even thought of my book as Law of Attraction specifically. And then, last year I won my blog won one of the best Law of Attraction blogs. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm a Law of Attraction person. Because, that is exactly what I'm writing about. But I don't know I knew for sure if it was law. You know what I mean? I don't know that I called it that exactly. But I think one of the best ways to convince skeptics or people, well, for one thing, they can try these experiments in my book because, anybody can give up 48 hours, to try it. Even a doubting Thomas says, okay, well, fine, I'll give you 48 hours. So that's kind of a good way, to just ask for a little bit and to ask for a baby step. But I think when you couch it in terms of quantum physics, and here is the truth, quantum physics has proven there's this thing called the observer effect. You cannot look at anything, you cannot think of anything, you cannot smell anything, taste anything without influencing it. We're all connected to this big energy field, and how our consciousness is affecting everything else. So when you realize that observer effect, that there is no absolute truth. It's all a bunch of random probabilities and possibilities, and then basically you decide which ones you want. So I guess when you couch it in terms of science, quantum physics, or even in these, in this book, I have science experiments, and I set them up just like, real scientists set it up. It's like, here's the hypotheses, here's the framework we're going to try, and then you just see if it works or not. So we're not saying, yes, it's going to work. We're not saying, we just give it a try. That's all. So I think, if you just got to open that door a little bit, get people, those doubting Thomases to just give it a little try. Give it a whirl.
Okay. No, that's pretty awesome. I appreciate that. And I definitely agree with you. And it's fascinating how so many walks of life are living and believing in the law of attraction. Like, it's actually a statement now. Like, people say law of attraction Do you think media like The Secret and latest promotions by the Oprahs of the world help lead to that, or is it something that's just always been popular for a while?
Well, I think that's gotten it into the mass consciousness. I mean, I go to a New Thought church. It's a unity church, and these principles have been discussed in these unity churches for a long time. I'm also a student of the Course in Miracles, and, the very first principle in there is that you have to get it that your thoughts, create what comes back to you. Your thoughts are very powerful. So these ideas have been out there for a long time, and I'm not sure exactly when they started being called law of attraction, but, certainly at some point. Now that is, it's in the general vernacular. I mean, everybody kind of does know what the law of attraction is, and certainly my book is about the law of attraction, although, like I said, I don't know that I called it that or, thought of it in that way until, I guess. But, it's all the same thing. Just like, there's so many names for God, there's so many names for, a lot of different things, but it's the idea that's really what's important. It's not the name that you give it. It's the idea, the principle.
Yeah, no, I have no idea how it also became so popular, too, in some ways. And I also love how you just live it, and it's, I like your book. One of the reasons why I liked your book, just on a side note, is because although you don't realize it, you subconsciously talk about law of attraction without actually mentioning the words law of attraction. And that's always the best way to show someone that, hey, this stuff really works, it's a great mindset, and that it's simple to do. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if that was intentional. I think it might have been that, when I wrote the book back, 8 or 9 years ago, maybe that term hadn't been coined yet, maybe. Because like I said, I wrote this book quite a while ago, so that might be why. Because I by the time it came out, in fact, I don't know if the word law of attraction might be in there. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it's the exact same thing. I just don't know if I was calling it that. And again, I'd have to read my book again just to see if that's in there. But it might be. But it's those principles. It's definitely that idea that what you focus on expands. Your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts go out into the big quantum field. They're vibrating at a certain vibration, the same as, a radio wave or a television wave, sends things through the ethers, and it, goes back like a scout, and it brings it back to you exactly how you send it out.
That's amazing. So tell us more about your current book. I mean, we've talked about it so much, so tell us about it. Like what's it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it came out January 28th, 2013, and it just kind of was kind of grew word of mouth until, it has become, really popular. I think, it really appealed to a lot of people. I did, a few little interviews, and that created a few people to buy it. And then I think what happened, Hay House priced it really low, so a lot of people thought, oh, well, I can give it a try. And then because it was accessible to a lot of people and people started talking about it, and it got a buzz going, and before I knew it, it had just taken off. But again, I think it's all because of my my little message I wrote on the sand. See, that was my vision board, by the beach. I wrote it on the beach.
Okay, so what is this? Tell us more about the book. I mean, someone who's never read it, like, why should they buy it? Who's it for?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it has 9 spiritual principles or energy principles. They all have fun names, but they're real, important principles that I think we all need to get. I think, once you realize that this is the way the universe works, your life is just going to be a lot better. But anyway, so it has these 9 principles, and then each one of the 9 principles has for the most part, 48-hour experiment to check it out to see if it works. And we set up lab reports and everything to see if it works. But some of the principles, and I have kind of funny names for them, like one's called the first one. This is the one on which everything else rests. It's called the Dude Abides principle. And basically what it says is, there is an invisible energy force or field of infinite possibilities. And then there's a little experiment to see if that is going to be true for you. The second one is the Volkswagen Jetta principle, and that one says that, whatever you focus upon, or no, that one's you impact the field and draw from it according to your beliefs and expectations. So, again, you get out of the field what you're expecting. So each one of them, there's just 9 principles that, prove that I think are, bedrock principles. And then there's an experiment, and I set it all up, and then people, try the experiment, use the lab reports to see if it works for them, to see if it's true in their experience. Because I'm not trying to hit anybody over the head with it and say, oh, you have to believe, which is, I think, what some people have done with the religion. This is a fun thing. The whole idea is to have a good time with this. I love it when people start doing this in groups. There have been several Facebook groups that have started, and like I have a group here in my hometown, and we get together and we talk about these kind of principles, every week, and we have so much fun. We laugh about it. We laugh about the times that it doesn't quite work out the way we thought it would. We, are amazed. We get, support from hearing other people's stories. I think that's what happens a lot. It's like that old 4-minute mile story. Once the guy broke the 4-minute mile, everybody knew that was possible, and then they all could all do it. So I think when you join together in groups like this, gosh, look what happened for her. I bet that could happen for me too. So I think it's really powerful. I think that resonance field, creates that by getting together. So anyway, there's 9 principles. I can go through them if you want me to. But anyway, each one of them is a different principle, and then there's an experiment to try each one. So that's basically the book in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. Well, it's a great book. I personally read it, and I guess the follow-up question I ask you is, what's next for you?
Well, Hay House came back and wanted me to write E cubed, which kind of cracked me up, There will not be an E quadruple or whatever. There's E2, E3. But anyway, I'm working on that one now. It's going to come out in about a little less than a year. I think it comes out next September. And it has 9 more energy experiments. Again, they're law of attraction kind of experiments. But it's all about having more joy and fun and adventure in your life and, following the love. Follow your heart and follow the bliss or whatever. So that's the big thing that I encourage people to do.
Okay. Well, final question is, if you could talk to a younger version of yourself, someone who's just getting their feet wet, what advice would you give them?
Well, a younger me, don't listen to what your mom said about being a computer programmer, which is exactly what I did. I didn't listen to the advice of my mom. I mean, I knew I liked to write, and so that's what I was going to do. I wanted to be a writer. And so I always wrote, and then I took, I was a journalist, so I worked for a newspaper, and decided I liked to travel. I started traveling and writing about my traveling and found out there's a field called travel writing. I mean, one of the stories I always tell is I knew I loved to travel, but I don't think I knew there was a field called travel writing exactly. But so I traveled, and then I loved to write, so I wrote about it. And then I found out that there was actually a field called travel writing, and I think the universe kind of brought that to me because it's like, well, Pam wants to travel. She doesn't have the money to travel, so we're going to have to figure out a way for this to happen. And so they set up this travel writing thing for me or whatever. So I think that's just one example of the universe knew better than I did. Most people, they think, I want to travel, so okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save up money, I'm going to work really hard, save up money, then I can go travel. Well, that wasn't the path for me. My path was, I'm going to get invited to go travel because I am going to write about it, and then I get to travel for free. So that was my path to, getting to travel and getting to write. And then, so like I've got 16 books, and half of them are travel books, and half of them are, these kind of books, these inspirational books, books about self-fulfillment and human potential and that kind of thing. So those are my 2 big fields, or I guess my 2 big interests, and I've been able to combine both of them and have a pretty fun career.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you're doing great stuff, and I cannot wait to see your next book and keep in touch and see how you're doing. So thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for making the world a better place.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Have a good day.